In the winter of 1875, Paloma Castillo stood at the threshold of her own doom, her heart racing as the biting cold gnawed at her exposed skin. The wind howled through the bare branches surrounding her family's homestead, swirling bits of snow into a dance of white that reflected her overwhelming despair. A shaking hand crossed her chest, instinctively brushing back her cascading white hair, the color of moonlight and an inviting target for scorn. Her father, Vicente, loomed over her, the embodiment of storm clouds ready to unleash their fury. "You are not my daughter," he shouted, each word punctuated by the icy tension that permeated the air, a surreal cacophony of fear, shame, and bitter rejection. Paloma's breath hitched. The very essence of her being was unraveling before the gathered family. Relatives stood behind Vicente, their eyes full of disdain, judging her for what she had not chosen, condemning her for being different. "Cursed! You are a curse upon this family." His voice was a vicious crescendo that ricocheted off the log walls, magnifying the isolation that swelled in her core. Each hateful syllable cut through her like glass, shattering the fragile remnants of belonging she so desperately sought. She felt small and helpless, her heart pounding like a wild animal attempting to escape a snare. The ground beneath her was unforgiving. As her father's voice rose, so did the chilling weight of his words. "You'll never know the love of a husband or the joy of motherhood," Vicente declared, his pronouncement echoing in the air with a finality that crushed her spirit. Paloma staggered backward, heat flooding her cheeks as shame warred with disbelief. "You are not part of this family." He pointed dismissively, and with that motion, the door of familial love slammed shut, imprisoning Paloma outside in the cold embrace of winter, cut off from the warmth of belonging. As she stumbled into the unforgiving wilderness, the reality of her situation pressed down like the weight of freshly fallen snow. The tall pines stood sentinel, stark and imposing, their needles draped in white, a beautiful contrast to her turbulent heart. The bitter chill seeped into her bones, mirroring the rejection she felt swelling as a bitter ache in her chest. Alone in the stark landscape of Montana, her isolation felt palpable, the cold air lacerating without mercy at her exposed skin. Her fingers, trembling with shock, brushed against her woolen dress, a rough reminder of the world that had stripped her of her identity. Paloma cast a glance back at the house she had called home, now a fortress of resentment, a stronghold where loving memories faded, replaced by disdain. The family members who once smiled at her now wore masks of judgment, their eyes swirling with the stigma Vicente had propagated. What had she done to deserve this fate? What hidden curse branded her as unworthy of love? She could feel her breath catching in her throat, stifled by an overwhelming sense of loss. Each inhalation filled with sorrow as she thought of the warmth she'd always dreamed of. A husband to love her, children to adore. Yet now those dreams felt as distant as the sun hidden behind clouds. The forest swallowed her whole, and she plunged deeper into its icy embrace, clutching her arms around herself as if to shield her heart from the piercing winds. She turned her back on her former life, battling the consecutive daggers of loneliness that plunged deeper with every step. The wilderness surrounding her felt both foreign and hauntingly familiar, a silent witness to her anguish, one that offered no solace from the pain of abandonment. The tall trees stood as an eternal reminder of the strength she needed to find. Their mighty forms loomed above, vibrant against the endless white, while she, a solitary figure, felt lost amidst the echoes of winter. With each shudder of her heart, she felt the sting of her tears hybridize with the cold as they streamed down her cheeks. Yet with each drop that froze against her skin, an ember of defiance ignited within her, the will to survive. The icy grip of despair tightened like a vice, but somewhere deep inside, Paloma felt the whispers of hope begin to take root. She would not let this define her. She was not just the sum of her father's cruel declarations. She was Paloma Castillo, a spirit yearning to break free from the constraints of someone else's fear. The isolation of the snowy forest began to speak to her, urging her to listen. The wind clawed at her ears, carrying with it fragments of stories untold, of resilience and strength hidden beneath the surface. The stars began to twinkle above her, tiny beacons of light in the silken blackness, a reminder that there was beauty even in the darkest of nights. She looked up, her breath forming clouds that shimmered against the backdrop of the dancing lights, and allowed herself to imagine a life beyond the rejection that had defined her. What if her differences could become her strength? What if she could transform the shame heaped upon her into something worthy of pride? Each step she took through the snow became a testament to her resolve, The tiny crunches beneath her feet almost a new language of perseverance. The tales of warriors, brave souls who had faced adversity, surfaced in her mind, illuminating the path ahead. The snow, once a weight to bear, became a canvas on which she could paint her own identity, unshackled by the chains of her father's words. A flicker of determination ignited within her, urging her to embrace her uniqueness, to transform it from a mark of shame into an emblem of power. With a newfound sense of purpose, Paloma pressed on, fueled by a desire to rewrite her narrative. The jagged edges of her pain sharpened, forging an inner strength that had simmered beneath the surface for far too long. She was not merely the pale girl with white hair deemed cursed. She was a beacon of potential, a warrior wrapped in winter's cloak. As the clinging cold enveloped her, she began to feel the vibrancy of life pulse within her, vibrant and unmistakable, a melody waiting to escape. With each footfall softening the impact of her rejection, Paloma breathed in the crisp air, holding tightly to the fragile flame of hope. The frightened girl she had been began to shed layers, unveiling the fierce spirit ready to rise from the soles of her feet to the tips of her fingers. She would find her way, step by step, through the vast unknown, into the heart of the wilderness, where every choice would lead her closer to the essence of who she was destined to become. Night calmed the world around her, and as the shadows deepened, she made her way to an ancient pine, grounding herself against the thick trunk. Nature cradled her, whispering that she was not simply a victim of circumstance, but a survivor. This was her moment of reckoning. This wilderness would become a place of healing, a sanctuary where she would grow into her true self, no longer bound by her father's disdain, but propelled forward by her own indomitable spirit. The journey ahead would be long, but within the solitude of the Montana wilderness, Paloma Castillo vowed to rewrite her story, one footstep at a time. The snow crunched softly under Paloma Castillo's boots as she began to carve her way through the wilderness, where the towering pines swayed against the shimmering night sky. Each step resonated in her ears like a warrior's heartbeat, steady yet filled with emotion. The moon poured its silver light across the landscape, illuminating the path ahead, a stark contrast to the shadows she had left behind. The chilly air calmed her racing mind, embracing her with an ethereal chill as the weight of her past receded like the tide. It was here, beneath the soothing canopy of ancient trees, that she first glimpsed a flicker in the distance. A flicker of warm light, like a beacon against the cold. Instinctively, curiosity propelled her forward. It wasn't long before she caught sight of smoke rising gently into the crisp air, the scent of wood smoke greeting her senses, hinting at the presence of a nearby fire. The wilderness beyond the cabin exuded a primal beauty, but the promise of warmth and safety beckoned her closer. As she broke through the trees, the cabin appeared, a solitary structure surrounded by snow-blanketed pines. Dim light glimmered from within, a golden glow that seemed to dance around the edges of the rough-hewn wooden door. For a moment, Paloma felt the weight of her despair fade, as a living warmth swelled within her chest. Stepping hesitantly closer, she found herself drawn there by a force she could not fully understand. Was it hope, or the allure of connection that had eluded her for so long? Before she could gather her resolve, the door swung open, unleashing a wave of warmth and the fragrant aroma of roasted game and savory herbs. There stood a man, tall and broad-shouldered, with a thick, weathered beard and piercing blue eyes that blazed with intensity. The firelight cast shadows across his rugged face, revealing the deep lines etched into his skin, marks of a man who had lived, who had seen the harshness of life. His mere presence felt like a shield against the world, a stark contrast to the tumult she had just escaped. "Who goes there?" he called out, his voice deep and commanding, yet wrapped in the mellow timbre of gentleness. Paloma hesitated for a moment, both frightened and compelled to speak. The cabin felt alive with possibilities, and for the first time in what felt like forever, she considered the essence of her own voice, strong and full of conviction. Paloma," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm just looking for shelter from the storm." The man scrutinized her for a heartbeat, as though weighing her words against the backdrop of the storm outside. "Enter," he finally said, stepping aside and opening the door wide, revealing the welcoming warmth of the cabin's interior. "You look like you could use some company and a bite to eat." As Paloma stepped inside, the heat enveloped her like a soft embrace, melting away the cold that had seeped into her bones. The cabin was modest but inviting, with walls adorned by rustic tools, animal pelts draped over rough-hewn furniture, and a stone fireplace that crackled and danced with flames. A large table stood at the center, laden with an array of food, game meat resting on a wooden platter, and thick, hearty stew bubbling in a pot. It was a world apart from the rejection she had faced moments before, a sanctuary of warmth away from her past. "Sit. Warm yourself," the man gestured, an inviting look softening his hardened features. He moved to pour a bowl of steaming stew, the fragrant aroma filling the room. "You must be starving." "Thank you," Paloma murmured, sliding into the nearest chair, grateful for the opportunity to escape into the comfort of nourishment, both for her body and soul. As she accepted the bowl, their hands brushed, and for a fleeting moment, an energy sparked between them, igniting emotions she had kept suppressed. "You're not from around here, are you?" he asked, watching her with those piercing blue eyes, searching for a hint of the truth lurking behind her guarded demeanor. "No, I was at my father's home." She hesitated, then realized that vulnerability was a small price to pay for the warmth of companionship. I came here to escape." "Escape?" he prodded gently, leaning on the table with a keen interest that felt both inviting and disarming. What could drive someone to flee their own home? Paloma's defenses slipped for just a moment as she looked into the depths of his eyes, searching for a glimpse of empathy. I'm different, and he didn't want me anymore." The weight of her father's words surfaced unbidden, the raw sting of rejection still fresh. "He said I was a curse upon the family, that I'd never know love." A flicker of anger flashed across the man's expression, but he quickly masked it. "I can assure you that differences are not curses," he said firmly. "In fact, they're often blessings to those who know how to harness their power." His words resonated with her like the softest melody, awakening the embers of courage buried deep within her. She was not merely a reflection of her father's disdain. She was a tapestry woven from the fabric of her own experiences, a warrior clad in the shadows of rejection, ready to burst forth into the light. "I've spent so long feeling like I don't belong anywhere," she admitted, her voice gaining strength with each syllable. "But perhaps this is where I'm meant to be. Perhaps this is a chance to discover who I am." He nodded, a knowing look crossing his rugged face. "The mountains offer many lessons," he replied, his voice low and steady. "And change is born from embracing the unknown. What's your name?" "Paloma," she repeated, emboldened by the warmth of connection blossoming between them. "Paloma Castillo." The man smiled, a genuine expression that lit up his sturdy features. "I am Jasper Ashwood, a mountain man who tends to keep his distance, until now. You'll find this cabin is a sanctuary for those seeking refuge." His name hung over her like a gentle breeze, awakening the fragments of hope nestled within her heart. "Thank you for your kindness," she said softly, her voice colored with gratitude. The walls surrounding her felt like they were weaving an invisible thread of connection, drawing her closer to this unfamiliar man. The warmth of the fire flickered, casting a dance of light across his stony surface. Night draped the wilderness in a deep cloak, whispering secrets of the world outside. They spent the evening under the watchful gaze of the flickering fire, tangled in conversation that stitched their lives together. Between bites of savory stew and sips of rustic ale, Paloma shared her hopes, her fears, and the reality of her existence, while Jasper recounted tales of the mountains, their beauty and wildness, the challenges they offered, and the solace they bestowed upon those who dared to venture deeply into their embrace. Hours passed, and with each shift of the flames, Paloma felt the heaviness of her burdens begin to lift, replaced by a blossoming sense of possibility. She learned that Jasper had known loss too, his own demons woven into the fabric of his existence. He spoke of a family taken too soon, of wildfires that consumed everything he once held dear. His scars were visible not just on his skin, but etched into the depths of his soul, and Paloma felt a camaraderie swell around them, a shared understanding of the fragility of life. As they delved deeper into their stories, the hesitation that had once gripped Paloma transformed into an unwavering bond. She realized that even in the coldest corners of the world, there was warmth to be found in shared sorrow, a flicker of hope igniting the path forward. Jasper stood, stretching his limbs as he stoked the fire with a few more logs, his silhouette casting long shadows across the walls. "The mountains are calling. Soon I'll be heading out for supplies," he said, his voice steadying. "But you're welcome to stay here as long as you need. We've got work to do clearing paths with the thaw." "Work?" Paloma echoed, a spark of excitement flaring within as images of the coming days danced before her eyes. For the first time, she began to envision a future, not constrained by rejection, but crafted by her own hands, wrapped in the possibilities of inherent worth. Life out here is honest work every day, Jasper continued, his eyes glimmering with conviction. But it's rewarding, and I promise you, Paloma, the spirit of the mountains can heal the deepest of wounds. You're welcome to join me. Paloma felt her heart quicken, anticipation igniting a current she had not felt in years. I'd like that, she said, her voice firm against the backdrop of Jasper's unwavering gaze, his blue eyes radiating with sincerity. This is the first time I feel like I truly belong. With the promise of tomorrow ahead, Paloma looked out at the darkened wilderness, twinkling stars hanging overhead like a promise, a flicker of hope in an uncertain world. For the first time, she could envision a life built on her terms, one filled with purpose and resilience amid the wild beauty that enveloped her. And as the fire crackled softly, a sense of peace settled in her heart, wrapping around her like the embrace of newfound kinship. The mountains were more than just a geographical location. They were a promise of renewal, a chance to let her spirit soar higher than she had ever dared to dream. As the evening waned, Paloma and Jasper sat together, two souls finding solace in one another, the journey ahead ready to unfold in unexpected ways. The night stretched endlessly before them, and within the warmth of the cabin, a new chapter began, one defined not by loss, but by the embrace of opportunity, strength, and the beauty of connection. The sun crested the mountains, casting golden rays that poured through the cabin's windows, filling Paloma's room with warmth that beckoned her to rise. She blinked away sleep, blinking against the morning light filtering in, smiling as she inhaled the rich aromas of coffee and something sizzling on the stove. The low crackle of the fire danced in the backdrop, intertwining with the earthy scent of pine and wood smoke that enveloped the cabin. As she quickly dressed in warm layers, the woolen shawl Jasper had lent her wrapped snugly around her shoulders, a comforting reminder of the man who had transformed this space from one of isolation to one of welcome. Today marked her second day at the homestead, and she sharply felt the potential radiating within her. This wasn't just an escape, it was a new beginning, a canvas upon which she could paint her future, unshackled from her past. As Paloma ventured out into the world beyond, the pale light of dawn spread across the land, revealing the untouched snow blanketing the ground. The air was crisp and invigorating, dancing with scents of pine and the remnants of last night's fire. She stepped out, grinning at the familiar ground beneath her feet, a stark contrast to her former life, where every step had been heavy with doubt and despair. "Morning, Paloma," Jasper called, stepping out onto the porch, a broad smile lighting his rugged features, brighter than the morning sun. "Ready to get to work?" "Ready as I'll ever be," Paloma replied, her heart pounding with excitement. "Today we'll start with the garden prep," he explained, walking toward a shed filled with tools. "Spring is coming and we need to get the earth ready for planting. We aim to have a variety of vegetables. You'll see, working the land is more rewarding than it seems." Paloma couldn't suppress her grin as she followed him. "I've never gardened before, but I'm eager to learn. Don't worry, I'll guide you through each step. It's all about learning to listen to the land," he responded, glancing back with a mixture of enthusiasm and reassurance. "We'll start by tilling the soil, making it ready for the seeds." They spent the morning working side by side, breaking up the hardy earth, the rhythmic sound of their toil echoing through the stillness of the early day. Jasper showed her how to use the tools properly, teaching her the correct technique for driving the tiller into the soil. "It takes strength and care," he advised, demonstrating the motion, "but it's all about patience, just like life." Paloma absorbed every word, her laughter ringing through the air, mixing with the sounds of the wilderness, and in that moment, she felt like she was reclaiming a part of herself. The labor was tiring, but each shove of the shovel, every struggle against the cold and unyielding earth, breathed life back into her spirit. "Why do you choose to work the land?" Paloma asked between breaths. "What's your motivation?" He paused, looking thoughtfully at the colorful landscape surrounding them, his blue eyes reflecting the sky. "For me, this land is more than just survival. It's my connection to life. I lost my family to the darkness of tragedy," he confessed, the hardness of his voice underscored by a faint vulnerability. "But tending this land, the rhythm of planting, nurturing, and harvesting, reminds me of what I have yet to discover. I work to ensure that life continues in the midst of loss." Paloma listened, struck by the depth of his words, realizing how his past echoed her own. "I understand," she said softly, her hands resting on the handle of her tool. The earth provides stability. It reminds us of our strengths when life becomes turbulent. Jasper nodded appreciatively, recognizing their shared bond of resilience. As the hours passed, the sun climbed higher in the sky, bathing them in a golden warmth. The work was challenging, but Paloma could feel her body responding to the labor, growing stronger, more adaptable with every shove of dirt and twist of the shovel. Each time their hands brushed against each other as they shared tools, she felt sparks of connection shimmer between them. By mid-afternoon, they paused for lunch, seated on the cabin steps, laughter spilling out over the warm breeze. Jasper shared stories about the wildlife they would often encounter, bears roaming through the woods, elk charging across meadows, and the ethereal beauty of wolves gliding silently under the moonlight. Paloma felt herself enraptured by his tales, her imagination weaving pictures of the elements he spoke of. "You've created a life here that's fascinating," she said, glancing at the dense woods beyond. "There's so much to explore. I want to see it all." Jasper nodded, his gaze holding a glimmer of admiration mixed with something deeper, perhaps recognition of her longing for freedom that mirrored his own. "There's beauty in this wildness," he shared evenly. "But keep in mind, nature has its risks. You must respect it and learn its ways. If you listen, the mountains will teach you." With renewed energy, they returned to work, Paloma embracing the spirit of the labor that filled her with purpose. And as she dug her hands in the earth, she felt the heaviness of her past begin to dissolve, replaced by a fierce hope, the kind that implants roots deep within the heart. Days turned into effortlessly flowing moments, the rhythm of their labor blending with the changing seasons. Each morning, they would rise with the sun, tending to their chores, cultivating their bond along with the soil. Together they shared cooking, laughter, and countless attempts at storytelling, each one encouraging vulnerability that deepened their connection. Through the midst of their industrious days, Paloma shared more about her life, slowly unraveling the layers that held her in captivity. She spoke of her childhood, the stifling confines of her father's home, the smothering weight of his doubts, and the longing for a place where acceptance thrived. "For so long I believed I was nothing but a blight, a curse to my family. I felt shackled by that belief," she confessed one night, her voice steady but filled with emotion. It appeared as if Jasper had melted into the very essence of the firelight dancing between them, his gaze reflecting both concern and empathy. "What you endured does not define you, Paloma," he said earnestly. "We are each responsible for crafting our own identities. Our past don't dictate our futures. You are not a burden, but a beacon of resilience." The weight lifted a little more from her heart at his words, his kindness flooding through her like newfound strength. Unbeknownst to her, she began to redefine her narrative and was no longer simply a series of misfortune events. In the heart of the wilderness, she was becoming her own masterpiece. As the days unfolded, their physical labor evolved into shared moments of exploration. They ventured into the nearby woods on their days off, immersing themselves in nature's lavish palette. Whether it was gathering wildflowers or foraging for edible roots, each experience stitched them closer together. She learned from him, while he too began to uncover the treasures hidden within his heart, an openness that was inspired by her strength. Under the wide Montana sky, Paloma's laughter echoed against the landscape, a sound that felt foreign yet wholly liberating. She could feel the awakening of her identity blossom with each passing moment, shapes forming in the whirls of wildflowers and the gusts of fresh air whipping through her hair. Then came the evening of the full moon, casting a glowing path across the landscape. Paloma stepped outside the cabin, the cool air filling her lungs as she gazed up at the celestial spectacle. She could see why Jasper loved this wilderness. The stars twinkled like diamonds, whispering secrets to the quiet night. Jasper stood nearby, his silhouette etched against the light, and as Paloma approached, he turned to her. "The moon is breathtaking tonight," he remarked softly, almost reverently, his gaze fixed upon the luminous orb. "Yes, it's like a guiding star, filled with stories," she agreed, her heart swelled with unexpressed feelings. "The beauty feels infinite, doesn't it?" Jasper let out a breath, the air between them thrumming. "We have the capacity to create beauty, too," he said, his voice low, as if sharing a profound truth. "Just as nature thrives, so can we." No matter what has come before, Paloma turned, her heart racing at the intensity with which he looked at her. This was a man who had buried his pain deep, yet still stood strong, willing to share. "Together we can nurture the best of ourselves," she declared, courage filling her voice. She stepped closer, feeling the heat radiating from him as they stood in the moonlight, two souls forged by fire and adversity. The distance between them shrank, the sparks igniting something deeper, something tender. Could this be love? She had always feared the connection, regarded it as a dangerous path, but here, with him, everything felt strikingly different. "Paloma," Jasper began, voice thick with emotion, "you've brought new light to my world. It's been long since I've had someone willing to share the burdens of this land, and my heart, but—" He hesitated, gauging her response. "I can't help but feel that what we have is special." Paloma's breath hitched. "I feel it too," she whispered, an ache of longing creeping in as their eyes locked, understanding passing between them, a kind of clarity that illuminated the darkness they both carried. In the soft light of the moon, Paloma took a step closer, drawn to him like a moth to flame. In that singular moment, the wilderness around them seemed to dissolve, leaving only them, their fears, their hopes, and an unspoken promise for tomorrow. They could learn together, heal together, transform together amidst the magic of the living earth. The yearning in her heart soared, and as Jasper reached up to brush a strand of hair behind her ear, she closed her eyes, embracing vulnerability with the wondrous feeling of acceptance. It was a profound awakening, a possibility to forge a beautiful life, now steeped in love, resilience, and connection, to redefine not just survival, but belonging. In that silence, under the vast Montana sky, Paloma felt the walls she had built around her begin to crumble, replaced by a fierce frisson of hope. This was only the beginning, the dawn of a new chapter, one where she could step fully into her power and craft her own narrative, intertwined with that of the extraordinary man standing beside her. As the sun rose in the days that followed, it cast soft golden rays across the mountains, heralding the promise of another season. The harvest season awaited. Paloma stood in the early morning light, a chill in the air tangled with the aroma of earth and greens. She had awakened with a fierce sense of purpose, eager to continue nurturing the homestead she was building alongside Jasper. Each dawn revealed not just the beauty of the land, but also a deeper connection to her roots as a person, rising from the ashes of past hurt and insecurity. Their days unfolded in a steady rhythm, and as the garden flourished, so too did their teamwork. Two hands working, two hearts entwined in a delicate balance of labor and love. They spent hours tending to both flowers and vegetables, weaving their own histories together amidst the rows of bright tomatoes and corn, a daily blessing. The harvest was a celebration of what they had cultivated, not just crops, but hope and trust. One afternoon, as they worked side by side, Paloma surveyed their labor with uncontainable excitement. "Jasper, look at this!" She pointed to a collection of vibrant pumpkins, their golden orange skins gleaming brilliantly in the sunlight. "We did it! They look perfect!" "They do," Jasper replied, wiping the sweat from his brow, his grin radiating warmth. "I think this will be one of the best harvests we've seen, and now we have an opportunity to share it." Paloma felt vitality bubbling up inside her at the thought. "Absolutely. We could host a harvest festival. Imagine inviting everyone in the community, sharing our bounty. Meals, laughter, even games. It can be a celebration under the autumn sky, welcoming all of the families to come together." "I love it," Jasper said enthusiastically, picturing the potential joy and camaraderie. "Let's make it happen. I'll reach out to the neighbors starting next week, and we can gather volunteers to help put everything together." Emboldened by his receptiveness, Paloma set to work planning the event meticulously, wanting to ensure it would be fantastic. Nights turned into dream sessions, where she sketched out ideas under the dim light of the cabin, and Jasper often found her deep in thought. He loved seeing her enthusiasm pave the path of this homestead's potential. It filled him with warmth to witness each stroke of her pen knitting their aspirations together. Within days, their plans blossomed into something real. They reached out to the neighbors, who responded with excitement. Families began to pitch in, bringing a sense of community that transcended mere collaboration, lives woven together in the shared anticipation of something beautiful coming to life. As the day of the harvest festival approached, Paloma divided her time between tending to their crops and chipping away at preparations. She let her creativity flow, weaving garlands of dried corn and colorful leaves to adorn their gathering space. Jasper's strength seemed to manifest in every event they organized, his robust laughter ringing through the air, countered by Paloma's melodic giggles as they worked together. On the eve of the festival, a soft autumn breeze swept through the land, carrying the sense of wood smoke and earth mixed with burgeoning excitement. They took a moment to pause after a long day of work, sitting on the porch swing to admire their growing space together. "Everything is falling into place," Paloma said, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. "I just can't wait to see everyone come together. This is how communities grow." Jasper nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "You've created an atmosphere of abundance, Paloma. What's even more impressive is watching you find your place here. You've transformed from someone uncertain into a natural leader." Paloma felt a warmth wash over her at his words, affection blooming in her heart. "I couldn't have done it without you," she replied, her voice filled with sincerity. "You helped me believe in myself again. Together we fought against every doubt." Before Jasper could respond, Paloma noticed an unfamiliar silhouette creeping along the tree line behind the cabin. A dark figure loomed there, hunched and shadowy. Unease crept into her gut. "Jasper, over there, by the trees." His expression sharpened as he turned quickly, shoulders taut as he stood up. "Stay close to me," he whispered, his voice low and cautious. Paloma stepped closer, heart racing as they both regarded the figure now visible against the backdrop of fading sunlight. "Who are you?" Jasper called out, stepping forward, a steady hand placed at his side. The figure hesitated, then stepped into view. A scruffy man, his clothing tattered with dirt and patches, and his eyes wild, glinting with desperation. "I'm looking for shelter," he claimed, his tone half pleading, half threatening. "Moving through is one thing, but trespassing is another," Jasper responded, authority lacing his words. "State your intentions, stranger." The man's expression flickered between fear and aggression, his hands raised, palms outward, a defensive gesture. "I mean no harm," he insisted more earnestly. "I'm just passing through, been out there too long, just seeking a place to rest for the night." Paloma held her breath, her mind racing as she assessed the situation. She felt tension threading through the air, an impending clash between fear and a willingness to help. "Jasper," she said softly, "maybe we can hear him out. It's late, and it's getting dark. We can at least offer food, can't we?" He glanced back at her, uncertainty radiating from his expression, but the appeal in her voice softened his resolve. Reluctantly, he nodded. "All right, but if I sense any threat, you'll be the first to know," he warned, leaving no room for argument. "Please," the man said, his voice cracking slightly. "I swear I'm not here to cause trouble." "Come, sit by the fire," Jasper instructed, motioning with a curt nod. The tension eased marginally as the man did as directed, eyeing them with cautious respect. Paloma hurriedly prepared a modest meal, the warmth of the cabin imbibing the air as she stirred a pot of stew, grateful for the familiar and comforting aroma. "You've been traveling far, I take it?" she asked the stranger, attempting to coax conversation into the space. "Aye," he admitted, a weary smile crossing his lips. "Had to keep moving. Can't afford to linger too long in unsettled territories. It's the dead of winter that makes folks sour." The air grew colder around them as the sun surrendered completely to the night. "You're safe now," Jasper assured him, though wariness seeped beneath the surface. As they shared the meal, Paloma pried for more information. "Where do you come from? Why are you passing through?" The man hesitated, glancing toward Jasper. "Down from Decatur. Heard there was work up here. Things ain't easy. Ran afoul of some unsavory types. Just trying to keep my head low and make it through." "Unsavory types?" Jasper's voice was more cautionary now. "What does that mean?" "Men from town," the stranger muttered, gaze dropping. "Let's just say they don't like wanderers, those who don't conform. Best keep my distance." Paloma sensed the weight behind his words, a shadow deepening within her. "You've made your way without drawing attention," she noted. "But every journey seems to be tied together. What about your family?" The man's expression shifted, a shadow briefly crossing his features. "Lost them some time back. Tragedy struck and, let's just say it opened dark doors." Jasper watched with keen interest, but Paloma's heart ached at the corners of his soul laid bare. "I'm sorry," she said sincerely. "I'm just surviving," he replied, his tone shifting from pain to hardened resolve. It felt raw but true. "Didn't expect kindness of strangers anymore." Paloma felt a pang of anger rise within, fueled by the injustices painted across his face. "Even moments of hardship can teach us," she offered. It's our choices that define us, not the weight we carry. The stranger met her gaze. And yet, here I find people sharing their warmth, he said softly. But trust doesn't come easy. Jasper's posture shifted, thoughts flickering through his mind as memories of his own loss echoed in the stillness between them. You may pass through, but this place is bound to its own. His voice held an edge of caution. You're welcome to stay until morning to recover yourself, but no, we will help only those who come in peace. Understood, I appreciate it, the man said slowly. Paloma offered him another steaming bowl as the wind howled outside, rattling the cabin. Their hospitality became a beacon as a long, tense evening passed, with the stranger sharing fragmented tales of his travels, while Paloma and Jasper quietly assessed him. As the fire crackled in the hearth, Paloma caught Jasper's eye, sensing his guarded demeanor beginning to soften ever so slightly. She could feel hope flickering within. Was it possible to extend compassion in a world filled with uncertainty? Throughout the night, the shadows of doubt loomed around the stranger as his stories were retold. Each tale wove a narrative littered with despair, hinting at dangers lurking beyond the borders of kindness. Paloma felt a swell of kinship. Through his trials, he illustrated how easy it could be to slip from stability into chaos. Eventually, exhaustion began to seep into the evening. Jasper placed a hand on Paloma's shoulder, nodding toward the guest room. It's late. We can talk more in the morning, and you'll find comfort for the night. We have an extra bed you're welcome to, Paloma reassured him. We wouldn't want you wandering while the darkness lingers. The man's gratitude emerged as he nodded appreciatively. Thank you, both of you. It means more than you know. As they settled down for bed, Paloma felt a flicker of conflict lingering within her. Something felt unfinished about it all. The story of his life echoed whispering truths with questions still unbroken. Though comfortable within their walls, wonders of the outside world churned within her mind, like autumn leaves caught in a whirlwind. Paloma couldn't shake the feeling's persistent echo, a reminder that the world outside was fraught with chaos. Would kindness be enough to shield them from the uncertainties lurking on the horizon? Over the next few days leading up to the Harvest Festival, Paloma couldn't forget the stranger's presence and what it might mean for their lives moving forward. As she worked diligently to prepare for the festival, she felt layers of uncertainty suffocating her joy. Jasper sensed the heaviness within Paloma, leaning into her as they harvested vegetables together, but he didn't press her to speak. Instead, he provided gentle encouragement, infusing their work with stories that made her laugh, nurturing an ease between them, even when unease crept at the edge of their shared tranquility. Each time she looked toward the horizon, the man's words reverberated in her thoughts. She was resolute that she must stay vigilant. They could grow a community rooted in support and kindness. After all, that was the crux of survival, wasn't it? The festival day excitedly arrived, bright and full of hope. Paloma donned her favorite dress, one with fabric blooming in vibrant colors reminiscent of the season. The air buzzed with expectation. Neighbors began arriving, bringing the fruits of their labor, pies, bread, and colorful stews, all filled with heart. Jasper was beside her, a reassuring sight as they welcomed their friends. The festival blossomed into something breathtaking, with tables laden under awnings woven from nature, laughter echoing throughout the crisp autumn air, children giggling about while parents shared the fruits of their labor. But as day turned to dusk, the atmosphere shifted. The stranger appeared from the shadows, camouflaged and cautious, watching the festivities unfold. Paloma's heart raced at the sight of him, unease prickling along her spine as she scanned the faces around her. Had he come for help? Or was he drawn by curiosity? Stay close to me no matter what, Jasper urged, sensing the change in her expression. Should we invite him in? She whispered, torn between courtesy and caution. We should keep our distance. Let's not draw attention. Paloma nodded, feelings of conflict igniting in her heart. She wanted to embrace compassion, yet felt the shadows of doubt flickering around them. As the festival rolled on, the darkness encroached, and uncertainty clashed with the joy and light they had built together. The world felt alive and poignant, yet peril lingered just beyond the reach of the flickering festival light. Children gathered closely, music filled the air, and laughter danced against the autumn breeze as Paloma smiled amidst her friends. Still, unease flared as she held on to hope. If they could unite through joy, they could also buffer against the dangers outside their sanctuary. Together, there would be safety in strength and unity. But in her heart, that shadow loomed, reminding her that darkness was always lurking, waiting for its chance to invade. Paloma had faced her share of battles, and she would not turn away in fear again. In that moment, as Jasper's hand grasped hers firmly, she felt determination blaze anew. They would see the night through, together, with the festivities in full swing and the promise of tomorrow dancing at the edge of their joy. Paloma took a breath and steadied herself, prepared to confront whatever waited to unfold. With the festival alive in full swing, Paloma felt the exhilaration of shared laughter and celebration tugging her spirit up, even as her instincts buzzed with unease. They held fast to their collective joy, a radiant tapestry of camaraderie woven between families surrounding the festive tables. Harmonious melodies danced through the evening air, while children darted around, their laughter as bright as the autumn leaves floating down from the trees. But at the edges of the gathering, she caught sight of the stranger again, lingering in the shadows, a perceptible tension rippling through her body. It was unsettling, seeing him standing apart, and even more alarming was the knowledge that she wasn't certain of his true intentions. The darkness of uncertainty that had crept into her heart mingled uneasily with the warmth of the festival, creating a turbulent fear that hovered silently. As the sun slipped further beyond the horizon, a chill wound through the night. The laughter of children began to fade, and whispers of concern started filtering through the adults. Paloma could feel the shift, the wave of apprehension that quietly washed over the festival goers like an approaching storm. "Jasper, we should keep an eye on him," Paloma said, her voice low but urgent as she attempted to keep their distance from the stranger. "Something feels off." Jasper looked toward the man, his jaw tightening. I agree. He's not here for companionship. That much is clear. Let's make sure everyone remains distant but aware." The gentle rhythm of festivity began to falter, and as if sensing their concern, the stranger stepped out from his shadowed refuge, moving closer to the perimeter of the gathering. His eyes bore an intensity that sent a chill through Paloma. The flickering firelight caught on the edges of his silhouette. "Looks like he's planning something," Jasper said, standing upright, his demeanor shifting to one of readiness. "Perhaps we should confront him," Paloma suggested, a surge of bravery pushing her forward. "Not alone, Paloma," Jasper replied firmly, placing his hand on her shoulder. "Let's approach together. We can't allow a single seed of fear to sprout in our community." Gathering strength from Jasper's presence, Paloma held her chin higher, and they moved cautiously towards the stranger. An uneasy tension stretched between them like a taut bowstring. Their hearts quickened at the thought of the confrontation ahead. As they approached, the stranger lifted his gaze, locking eyes with Jasper. "You're the one who's been spreading kindness in this part of the woods," he remarked, a hint of sarcasm woven into his words. "Jasper, right? What do you want?" Jasper asked, his voice steady and unyielding. "If you come for trouble, I suggest you turn back." Paloma felt the air thicken around them, charged with the unspoken confrontation between compassion and hostility. "We invited you to join in our celebration," she offered, infusing a note of calm into the dialogue. "But it is clear there are underlying tensions. Are you in need of something?" The outsider's demeanor shifted, a flicker of something softer passing across his hardened features. "I didn't mean to intrude," he said, though his voice retained a guarded quality. "I've seen enough of the world to know trust doesn't come easily." "Then you've come to the right place tonight," Paloma asserted, letting a determined warmth seep through her tone. "This festival isn't merely a gathering of strangers, it's a community born from shared experiences. And trust can grow, even from the darkest moments of despair." "I appreciate the invitation," he mumbled, glancing momentarily at the gathering, the joyous faces, the laughing families. "But you don't understand what I am capable of. I'm not someone you'd want around when the sun goes down." "Then show us you're worthy of trust," Jasper countered, not wavering. "You have a chance to prove that kindness can transcend fears." Silence fell for a moment, the muffled sounds of celebration faintly spilling across the night air. Paloma felt her heart race. She wanted to believe in the goodness of people, yet their caution clung lightly to her. "We all face storms. It's how we weather it that defines us," she pointed out softly. "Storms leave wreckage behind, lost homes, broken bonds," the stranger muttered bitterly, shrugging his shoulders. "I can't promise anything but solitude. My path is carved with choices less than noble." "Everyone here is a work in progress. You are too," Paloma urged, remembering her own struggles. "You don't have to walk alone if you don't want to. If you let us, you could find warmth among true friends who understand the burdens life can bring. Jasper watched, scanning the crowd with alert eyes as the man contemplated. We're not afraid to extend our hands to those seeking refuge. Community is built on embers shared, not walls erected between us. The outsider regarded them both, struggling against the weight of doubt mirrored in their expressions. And if I bring danger, I won't put you at risk. Paloma took a step closer, defiant compassion shining through. We've all faced our demons and darkness. We can help you, together. You're not alone any longer. But if you choose to walk away now, it may only lead to deeper shadows. A flicker of vulnerability crossed the man's features, and for a moment, Paloma believed she saw the glimmer of hope sparked within. That's all we ask, Jasper said, a semblance of relief crossing his face. He turned to join the others in the festival, leaving Paloma there as she drew nearer to the newly christened member of their tentative circle. Come on, she said gently, motioning for him to follow. Meet my friends. Everybody's welcome tonight. As they stepped into the circle of warmth and laughter, the tension began to ease. Though the heaviness from before still lingered, the celebration now bore the weight of understanding. They shared stories and meals. People in the community welcomed the stranger, inviting him to join the festivities. Jasper kept a watchful eye across the gathering, while Paloma immersed herself in conversations, weaving camaraderie into the fabric of the evening. Each genuine gesture of hospitality pulled the walls the stranger built around himself a little lower, allowing a chance of acceptance to flicker in his gaze. As the night deepened, games were played, laughter rang out, and the spirit of the Harvest Festival filled the air with exuberant energy. The community fortified their bond, laughter and music paving the way for memories that would ripple through their lives long after the festival faded into memory. Yet Paloma couldn't shake the unease that danced with the fringe of joy. The remnants of distrust crunched beneath her heart like fallen leaves, whispering caution amid the merriment. As the moon reached its peak overhead, illuminating the world below in a surreal glow, the pulse of the gathering amplified with echoes of laughter, a fragile shield against the looming clouds of uncertainty. She felt intertwined with Jasper and the community, but a stirring shadow loomed ever near. Where there is light, darkness resides, always vying for its chance to seep in. After the festivities dimmed, the stranger stayed by the fire, his gaze thoughtful. With children finally quieted and the adults gathered around, it was then that they began to share tales, true and heartfelt. Paloma's heart pounded, sensing they were on the brink of shifting tides, between fear and shelter, hope and despair. Perhaps in this moment, they could create a space for healing, but a relationship built on faith takes time. They could endure whatever storm lay ahead, as long as they faced it together. The strength of community echoed the courage of individuals willing to forge connections, igniting their spirits as flames flickered amid the night. Their path ahead was uncertain, yet in that moment of shared stories amidst gathered friends, Paloma knew they had initiated something that could weather any storm. With solidarity woven deep into their hearts, they would prevail, not just until the shadows waned, but long into the dawn of new beginnings. The days following the Harvest Festival unfolded with bittersweet tension, each moment marked by the lingering presence of the stranger among them, now called Ethan. Though the warmth of community surrounded them, concerns about his past cast shadows in Paloma's heart. She could see the mixture of gratitude and weariness etched on his face as he hesitated to fully integrate. One crisp evening, Paloma found herself stoking the fire inside their cabin. The warmth flickered invitingly, but outside, snow began to fall, gently blanketing the world in a serene, white stillness. Yet the beauty of the scene offered little solace for her restless mind. Something on your mind? Jasper appeared in the doorway, his presence steady and strong. Yes, I can't shake my concern for Ethan. I feel he is still hiding something from us, Paloma confessed, her voice tinged with worry. He carries a past burden, Jasper acknowledged, nodding thoughtfully. But sometimes all it takes is a little time and compassion to melt those walls. With newfound resolve, Paloma decided it was time to directly address Ethan. Approaching him while he chopped wood, she took a deep breath as she stepped closer. "Ethan?" she called, her voice warm yet firm. "Can we talk?" He paused, his posture turning rigid with surprise. "Sure," he replied cautiously, wiping his brow before meeting her gaze. "You've contributed so much since joining us," Paloma began. "But you don't have to carry the weight of your past alone. Sharing it with us could lighten your burden." He looked away briefly, the firelight illuminating the tension on his face. "It isn't easy to talk about," he admitted, almost defensively. "I understand," she replied softly, her tone inviting and genuine. "But there's strength in sharing, Ethan. We're here for you, if you'll let us be." After a moment, he sighed, lowering his shoulders with resignation. "Fine. I lost everything once, trust included. I can't just forget that." "Trust can be rebuilt," Paloma reassured him. "Each of us has faced our trials. You're not alone here. We're all willing to help you face what haunts you." He met her eyes, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through. "You make it sound so simple," he said, though there was a hint of hope in his voice. "It isn't, but we're willing to stand by you," Paloma pressed, her conviction strengthening with each word. "You're part of our community now, and the path ahead doesn't have to be walked in solitude." Ethan shifted on his feet, considering her words. The sound of falling snow began to fill the air, softening the edges between them, a moment suspended in possibility. "What if I'm not worth the risk?" he challenged, yet there was a trembling of fear behind it. "You're worth more than you know," Paloma responded, reaching out to place a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You're here, and that's enough to start anew." As the snow continued to swirl around them, Ethan stood still, a flicker of acceptance creasing his brow. It was a small step, but a step nonetheless. The potential for healing through affirmation flickered in the silence. That night, as they gathered around the community's fireplace, stories flowed. Children basked in the glow of shared narratives, and for the first time, Ethan participated, albeit haltingly. He spoke of lessons learned through hardship, capturing the attention of those around him. Paloma watched, her heart swelling with hope, sensing that perhaps he was beginning to forge connections. Gradually, laughter filled the air, melding with the crackle of the fire, and a sense of unity began to grow stronger. But as their bond strengthened, an underlying current of worry still lingered. The dangers outside their newfound sanctuary continued to press upon Paloma's mind, each uninvited shadow echoing warnings of what could disrupt their fragile peace. Weeks passed, yet uncertainty persisted in the heart of winter. One chilling afternoon, the peace was interrupted by news carried on the wind. Ethan's past had come to stalk him once again. A rider appeared at the edge of the community, and whispers began to circulate. An ominous presence from his previous life had entered their world, threatening to upend everything before they had a chance to heal. "Ethan, we need to be cautious," Jasper warned as they stood outside the cabin, the weight of worry heavy in the air. "News travels fast, and trouble often follows those who can't escape it." Paloma felt the swell of panic rise within her as she turned to Ethan, who stood pale against the backdrop of their fading sanctum. "I can face them," he insisted, though his voice trembled. "I won't let them destroy what we have here." "No," Paloma interjected, urgency lacing her words. "We have a choice. We can confront this together." As the winds howled outside, they formed a circle around the flickering firelight, facing the uncertainty that threatened to invade their home. This was not just a fight for survival, it was a testament to their commitment to one another. Their hearts ignited with renewed purpose, ready to stand against the storm awaiting their arrival. In the coming days, as the wind's chill sliced through the air, they steeled themselves against whatever might come. Together, they would weather this storm, forging resilience from vulnerability, courage from fear, and trust across the battlefield where darkness threatened to encroach. With determination burning brightly in their eyes, Paloma knew this was only the beginning. A call to arms against the specters of the past, unified under the strength of community, poised to embrace whatever awaited them ahead. Together, they would fight not just for their home, but for each other's hearts, undaunted by the shadows that lingered, ready to reclaim their narrative and illuminate the path to a fierce, hopeful future.